Crypto is, I'd say, moving upwards a little bit, pumping, but relatively bullish or not, I don't really trust it just yet. I think there's a lot that we need to talk about and uncover and look at in terms of the analysis, the news, and information. And let me know in the comments what you think. Are you trusting this move or not? And I'm going to be doing a video every single Wednesday from now on, moving out. Keep it regular and in a routine. So if you want that, please do slap on the old subscribe button and click the bell button so you're notified. We will come back to the chart in a bit, but the narrative is quite simple. Every single cycle has these type of moments where the market looks a little bit strong, there's stuff happening, but underneath, you could probably argue, doesn't look amazing. There's a lot of bearish structure that we do need to look at. I am not bearish. I am not blindly bullish neither, but I am a little bit cautious in terms of where we go next. As much as I wanted to go to the moon, obviously, but ultimately, I know for a fact that a structure like this, the market currently right now in terms of conditions, all that kind of stuff, added together, the stuff that needs to happen first. First, we need to talk about the macro risk because there is a bit of a problem here. We have Jerome Powell talking. We have a potential liquidity driver where it comes from the world of what could be said next. Now, just to give you a bit more of an insight, on my dashboard, we have today's events. There's a lot coming. There's a lot coming tomorrow as well, just to say that as well. So we've got Fed raise, we've got statements, conferences. It's going to be very, very interesting. Certainly when we look at the macro side of it, certainly when we look at the geopolitical landscape, the wars, all that kind of stuff. But genuinely, don't know what's going to happen today. I know there's obviously going to be, estimations and sort of polls and that, but it's more this, the hawkish tone of that could be very, very interesting today. So yeah, if it is a bit of a disappointment today, that whole structure that I showcased on the chart just before, briefly, which we'll come on to in more detail, it could really unzip on us, and that's a problem. Another thing that is of interest, it's kind of like, this is what we need to look at, but the ETF inflows, as it stands, are pretty good. Not amazing, don't get me wrong, we're on a streak, but the volume is low, much lower volume. And I don't say that this is like a warning sign that we're going to go to, the deathly elements, but my only concern is the fact that we are not getting nowhere near as much volume, which is understandable because of the pricing information. XRP is a one that's got, a bit of an interesting one because it's posted its first gains after an 8-day losing streak, which is always going to happen when it comes to altcoins because there's a bit more fear there. But the reality is here, when we talk about this, there's a big old difference here in terms of, yeah, we've got positive inflows, but they're nowhere near what it was back in those days when, we hit those top levels. So that, again, it's weak, but it still is quite good conviction in terms of looking at the fact that, well, when we look at the price, what moves the price at the minute? Well, probably, arguably, ETF inflows, which not everyone likes, obviously. And something else caught my eye this morning where I was just looking about and I saw this. Do Bitcoin halvings really matter? MicroStrategy basically buys the new supply by. Yeah, I get it, but there's always going to be money on the table anyway. There's always going to be inflows, and this is what's going to eventually create the supply shock. If we're talking very, very bullish. Now, yes, I could argue a couple of reasons why this is utter bollocks. I could argue reasons why this could happen, but that doesn't mean that we're going to change the entire market structure forever. This just means that there's going to be a quicker supply shock if more and more people are buying and there's not enough going around. Obviously, I know I've said it, but this doesn't mean anything in terms of like where the price goes, because I always look at the halving side of it as just an event, not really a thing that's really going to change the narrative too much. We have bullish, we have bearish markets, we have situation 4-year cycle, but the halving's only one part of that. Realistically, it going down in terms of the halving structure doesn't really change how the price moves. We've seen that before. Yes, there's a little bit hype before it, but the price is too high now. I don't think it really moves the needle too much now. So I would say probably it doesn't really matter anyways. But for me, there's always going to be sentiment. There's always going to be people, participation in the market that is going to be of interest. And we can see this. Can Bitcoin reach 400,000? I get it. But for me, I don't really trust that chart. I'll be honest with you. I think that's going to be, I don't think that's a bottom. I think that's, personal opinion. I could be wrong there. But yeah, there's stuff happening here which is of interest. So yeah, there's still a lot of stuff we kind of unpick here. But for me, when we talk about obviously the strategy amount of on their supply sheet and stuff, it just depends when they get bored. We'll see. But in terms of what is really happening right now, and this is on my Patreon, if you're interested on the dashboard, you can get access to this if you're a member. Everything is still bearish. Fear and greed, obviously 26 here. We're still in pretty much risk off territory, still in a bearish zone. Everything's looking a bit meh. Ethereum dominance is dropping, Bitcoin dominance is rising. But obviously as well, we've got some situations where we are getting a bit of a bounce in an extended kind of run here where certain smaller price metrics are getting quite bullish. But again, we could argue low liquidity, things are moving, whatever. But it's not really enough yet to get me really, I'd say, excited because we're still, Bitcoin season. The market capitalization of altcoins is not really rising that much. So it isn't like perfect right now. And I've just kind of alluded to before, we're going into a level of where the bears could be camping. So I wouldn't go too scary into the fact that, oh my God, here we go. But I would just be cautious at the fact that should we trust it? And I think no, not yet. I think we need to wait. And I did a video update on my Patreon yesterday about we are at levels of resistance and it could unravel at any moment. And yes, you could argue Trump could unravel it with one bloody post on his platform. He could unravel it with, or not so much him, but the bad data that could be coming out today or a hawkish tone from Jerome Powell could really upset the apple cart. So I would 100% be waiting to see what's going to happen next because, you could argue on the weekly time frame it's looked a bit better, but we also unzipped, the start of this month. That's not ideal, is it? So stuff like that is obviously going to be important. Yes, you could argue the 2-day time frame is that look a little bit better, but it might well just be the same as this. We're going to a zone and we're going to absolutely unravel, and that could be horrible. In terms of, you could argue a couple of things with obviously altcoins and stuff like that, and feel free to disagree, but this is still kind of sideways. It's still like nothing's happening with the Bitcoin dominance. So it's not really giving us that kind of conviction that, anything's actually genuinely happening here. I just don't think it's good enough to buy yet. I just don't think it's good enough to kind of go long yet on any sort of trades neither. I'm just kind of in that kind of zone thinking, you know what, let's just wait and see because Ethereum BTC kind of pair here is still like, again, bearish structure. Nothing's really kind of making me look at that as an opportunity. So it's not fun. There's the price point of Ethereum, by the way, if you're wondering. So I have covered this a little bit on my Patreon, but for me, they're not fully confirming. So it's another reason really to be cautious. I know not everyone likes to hear that, but I look at that and I think, well, we're above the EMA, but we've only been above it for how many days in the past? Not many at all. We're talking 20 days at least. And a little recommendation if you're interested, there's a link down here to Blowfin. 20% back on fees, but if you are interested in lower your exposure levels to holding your bags or spot, maybe look at trading it a bit more instead of just spot holding. Obviously, not financial advice, of course, but if you don't want to have that huge risk of being a bag holder, there's a lot better functionality with a trading platform which allows you to have stop losses versus say buying on say Strike or something and hold them forever. So just be mindful of what you do with your portfolio because even now we talk about easy mode. Easy mode for bears, potentially yes, but every single altcoin has a similar sort of pattern where we are kind of somewhat bouncing. Some of them are very, very weak, by the way, but they are still in bearish structures. Apart from hype, which is kind of set the tone. So what we're looking for in everything else is, yes, we're looking to be above the EMA 21 on the chart. Obviously, we're looking at the RSI, over the 50% levels at least, but structure to kind of confirm. So what we're seeing here, big, massive breakout, change of character, it pulled back into levels of support, and then it started going again. Arguably, there's a couple of reasons why you could have went long here, but in a market like this, it doesn't always show its hand. So just be mindful of that. Chainlink's another great example of ultimate bearish structure. XRP has been a bit weird. It's kind of had random little pumps and pulling back, but not amazing. But again, Sui, everything just looks like shit apart from maybe the odd one or two. So just be absolutely mindful. When we talk about this in terms of the total market caps, and as you can see here, total 3, removing of all the stable currencies, it is flat as a fucking pancake. So the interest is relatively low. So that is one big error of caution. So for me, as I've alluded to it, and we could talk about psychology all we want, but lower is obviously going to be better. I know, but they're not really in those levels yet, if that makes sense. So just be mindful. But yeah, as you can imagine, there's going to be, I think, a lot of excitement pumps or volatility pumps that people are like, oh my God, we're back. That doesn't always happen, but people always chase the late pumps, obviously. Markets will always fall back into levels of demand, and we may well see a change of character, a change of structure, and that breakout could be very, very interesting. Yeah, we could argue a couple of things on the 2-day time frame, so looking a bit neater and tidier, but as I say, today's event's going to be absolutely huge. The markets will always reward the patient, not the emotions of it, and the emotions are going to be probably pretty high with what's going on and where the price markets are. So yeah, we could go much, much higher, but is it worth the punt? No. Would we get a pullback first? Probably more likely to get a pullback first before we really shoot. But who says we're not going to shoot at all? I don't know. We'll see. Could be very, very interesting. And if you're wondering what I'm doing, and I'm going to talk about it here, but I haven't put my levels on here. I'm still building this. So as I say, these are linked below if you're interested in getting on the dashboard. There's about 7 or 8 things that I'm building right now, which is going to absolutely blow people away in terms of portfolio management, levels, interest, my DCA challenge, all the tracking. So there's a lot to add. I'm just doing it bit by bit. I don't have much time in life these days with 2 kids, but I'm going to say this now, and I've not got this on here yet, but I am not bearish in terms of the point of I'm going to hope it goes down to like 20K. I'm not. I am still dollar cost averaging in Bitcoin. I'm still happy to do that. I'm more than happy. But for me, I just don't think we're low enough yet to put my stable currencies in. I'm not happy with the fact that the price is down here, but ultimately we've got to kind of go with the emotions of it. It will take time to bottom out. It won't just happen overnight. I don't think this is a bottom. I don't think that's low enough personally. I think with the data and the information and the lack of interest, I don't think this bottom. I think what's happened was something's happened in the world and it's kind of reacted to it, which it should. It's Bitcoin. But we should probably see us go down at these levels at least. That's, I know I'm saying bearish stuff, but I am not overly massively bearish. I think we're not going to get as low as people think. I've seen some awful posts on the world of crypto on YouTube that's stupidly bearish. People thinking we're going back down to 12K, 8K, 6K, 4K, 3K. It's ridiculous just for clickbait. But I don't think we are. I think we're going to struggle to get anywhere near, levels of previous cycles. I don't think we will. If it does, something's majorly broken, but I can't see it personally. But as you can imagine, there's a lot of people that are flapping a little bit. The price obviously doesn't look great. I know, I get it. But as I say, just follow the price, follow the actions. And if it gets low enough, go for it. And the thing is, as much as like we are talking about, do we trust this pump? We've got to trust the right pump, if that makes sense. We've got to trust the right pullback. And if there's a level where we pull back from this point and we start seeing some positivity around the volume, the interest, it might well be a much bigger correction to the upside. But every single correction since, you could argue since what, September, October, has been very, very weak and also long driven. So it's not been the best in terms of like time duration. So people have been rattled out of moves pretty aggressively. So yeah, if you enjoy this, please do leave a like, follow along for more, and comment what you think. But for me, I don't think there's clear strength yet. There's a lot of things that we need to get out of the way. And once that happens, well, it might become a bit easier.